Hello students and welcome to the lecture of Microbiology Paper 1 Introduction to Microbial World. The topic for today's lecture is abiogenesis versus biogenesis. So let us start with the introduction. After Antony van Leeuwenhoek discovered the microbial world, scientists began to search for the origin of the microorganisms. Some of them believed that the microorganisms, that is, the animalcules as named by Antony van Leeuwenhoek, were formed spontaneously from the non living material, while others thought that they were formed from the seeds or germs of the animalcules, which were always present in the air. For many eras, humans have been asking, where does new life come from? But religion, philosophy, and science all have struggled with this question. But the oldest explanation to the question was the theory of spontaneous generation, which was accepted widely from the ancient times through the Middle Ages. That is, from the time of Greeks till the Middle Ages, the theory for the origin of life was the spontaneous generation or abiogenesis. The theory of spontaneous generation or abiogenesis was first proposed by Aristotle in 346 BC. He was the earliest scholars to communicate the theory of spontaneous generation, the notion that life can arise from non-living matter. Aristotle proposed that life arose from non-living material if the material contained pneuma, that is, vital heat. At that time, this theory was accepted without any questions because people or scientists lacked the knowledge about the microorganisms. Aristotle and his followers gave evidences like the appearance of animals from environments that were previously devoid of the animals. For example, the sudden appearance of fish in a new puddle of water that is formed in the rainy season. So, this theory persisted into the 17th century when scientists took additional experiments to support or to disprove the theory. By this time, the proponents of the theory of abiogenesis put forth several observations supporting the theory, and these observations that were given to prove the theory of abiogenesis include the appearance of frogs, snakes, and crocodile along the muddy banks of the Nile River in Egypt, and these were found during the annual flooding. Thus, it was said that these organisms appear from the mud of the Nile River that is warmed with the sun. Another example that was given was that mice appear among the grains stored in barns with thatched roofs. When the roof leaked and the grain molded, the mice appeared. Later, in the 17th century, Jan Baptista van Helmont proposed that mice could arise from rags, that is, old clothes, and wheat kernels that were left in the open container for around 3 weeks. The proponents of spontaneous generation concluded that mice arose from the wheat kernels. In reality, this was not the case. The habitat that is developed is such that it provides ideal conditions like the food and shelter for the mice to flourish, and that is why mice were present or found after around 2 weeks or 3 weeks of incubation period. Another popular example that was given was the formation of maggots from the meat that was left in the open. One more example that was given was if the horse's tail hair was dipped in water, it gave rise to the horse hair worm called as the Gordius. With all these examples, the proponents of the theory of spontaneous generation always kept on saying that this is the theory for the origin of life and that life arises from the abiotic components. So, people in the earlier days believed that the theory of spontaneous generation is the theory for the origin of life. But this theory was challenged in the 17th century by an Italian scientist and physician, Francisco Redi. In 1662, Francisco Redi was making innovative discoveries of his own because during that time people believed in the theory of spontaneous generation, but Reddy did not believe in the theory of spontaneous generation. So he was doing certain experiments for himself which people had never done before. He was the first to oppose the theory of spontaneous generation. So Reddy conducted an experiment to disprove the theory of spontaneous generation. So Reddy showed that the maggots do not occur spontaneously in the decaying meat. To prove this, he designed a simple controlled experiment which is now referred to as the Reddy's experiment. The idea of the controlled experiment is that two tests are identical in every aspect except for one factor. When carried out simultaneously, the hypothesis is that this differing factor, which is called as the manipulated variable, is the cause of different results in each experiment. So in 1665, Reddy did an experiment with jars that were covered and uncovered with meat. His experiments provided a powerful evidence that spontaneous generation, that is, formation of living things from inanimate matter, did not occur, at least in the case of flies. Reddy performed an experiment with two jars in which two identical jars were taken. One of the jars was left uncovered, that is, it allowed the flies to come in contact with the meat. In the second jar, it was covered with a cheesecloth or some other cloth that allowed only air to pass through it, but flies could not enter the jar and touch the meat. Right, so this is the two jars that were taken. Both contained the piece of meat of equal size. One jar was covered and the other jar was kept open. So the meat that was in contact with the air, it started decaying. The hypothesis behind the experiment was that both the pieces of meat would decay, but only the one piece of meat that was in physical contact with the flies, that is, the uncovered jar, would produce the maggots. Therefore, the decay itself would be eliminated as the cause. That is, merely the decay of the meat is not responsible for the formation of the maggots. After a short period of time, Reddy observed the maggots on the decaying meat in the jar that was open to air. There were no maggots that were found on the meat that decayed but was in the covered jar. From this experiment, Reddy concluded that flies laid their eggs on the meat in the open jar because flies could reach the piece of meat where they laid the eggs, and these eggs gave rise to the maggots. While in the jar that was covered, flies could not enter and reach the piece of meat, and therefore the eggs of the flies were not laid on the meat. Thus, there were no maggots that were produced in the meat that was placed in the covered jar. Thus, Reddy had proved that decaying meat was not the reason for the appearance of the maggots. But his experiments were challenged by the proponents of the theory of spontaneous generation, saying that the vital force, that is the pneuma, that is required for life was not available in the jar that was covered. Later, in 1668, Reddy did conclusive and well-designed experiments to disprove the theory of spontaneous generation, for which he took 3 jars and placed meat or fish in the jar. Jar 1 was left open. The second jar was covered with a paper or a lid which could exclude the flies, and the third jar was covered with a fine gauze or a fine paper. The experimental setup was the 3 jars with approximately the same size of meat, where one jar was left open to the air, other was covered tightly, and the third jar was covered with a mesh. In the first jar, flies could enter into the jar, come in contact with the meat, and lay their eggs in the meat. In the second jar, there was no air that was allowed to pass in. Flies, therefore, could not enter inside the jar and sit on the meat. Therefore, no eggs of the flies were laid on the piece of meat. The third jar was a jar that was covered with a fine mesh or a gauze which allowed air to pass to the jar towards the meat, but it did not allow the flies to enter into the jar. The flies were attracted because of the decaying smell of the meat, so they settled on the gauze, and when they settled on the gauze, they laid their eggs on the gauze. After a few days, the meat started decaying and maggots started appearing. Where maggots appeared in the first jar that was open to the air, but the second jar that was covered tightly did not show the formation of maggots. But in the third jar also, there were no maggots that were formed on the piece of meat. Maggots appeared on the cover or on the gauze that was used as the cover to cover the jar. So, in the experiment, flies laid their eggs on the uncovered meat and maggots developed. In the other two pieces of meat, no maggots were formed. That means maggots were not produced spontaneously. However, because the flies were attracted to the gauze that was used as a cover on the container, they laid their eggs on the gauze and these eggs produced the maggots. Thus, the generation of maggots by decaying meat resulted from the presence of the eggs that were laid by the flies and not because of spontaneous generation in the decayed meat. This observation can be extended to all the living things which come only from the pre-existing living things. This was proved by Francisco Redi from his experiments. Still, many people believed that microorganisms may be an exception to this general rule because they are very simple and they always appear in large numbers as soon after the death of a plant or animal. Leeuwenhoek's communications on microorganisms renewed the controversy of biogenesis versus abiogenesis. Some proposed that microbes arose by spontaneous generation even though larger organisms did not arise by the same process. They pointed out that boiled extracts of hay or meat gave rise to microorganisms after sitting for a while, and thus the controversy between biogenesis and abiogenesis continued for many years. Many people tried to prove the theory of biogenesis, which was again disproved by the proponents of the theory of spontaneous generation. Later, Louis Pasteur performed experiments to prove the theory of biogenesis, which we shall study in the next lecture or the next video. Okay. So, thank you.